How important is lifting to failure for hypertrophy and strength? Is lifting to failure more important to one type than another? So how important, so yes, I'm gonna come out here first off and say training to failure for strength is not a good idea. So I'll elaborate a little bit more, but let's break this into two parts. So for hypertrophy, so bodybuilding and then strength. For hypertrophy, I do think that training to failure is important, but to put this in more context, I think training to failure is important to a certain degree. What percentage of time? I don't know. I don't think that's the bigger factor at play here. I think it's more important to know what failure is. So there's a lot of, I see, and this gets into the RPE and all this kind of shit. I see it as different things. So say you're doing a set of, I'll use an exercise everybody knows, a set of barbell curls, very simple thing to go failure on. And you're doing strict sets. So, and you're controlling the tempo. So you're controlling the speed on the way down, speed on the way, so it's a controlled tempo. So you're not heaving anything, just controlled muscle action that you're doing. So say, 2-3 seconds on the way up, 2-3 seconds on the way down, maybe even longer. So 3 to 4 seconds on the way up, 3 to 4 seconds on the way down. And you don't break that technique or that tempo. And you just do that in that style. At a certain point, you're going to fail. At a certain point, the rep's going to begin to slow down, and then you're just not going to be able to get another rep. To me, that's failure. Now, at that point, somebody could, or even halfway through. So say they do the first 3 or 4 reps that way, then they start putting a little body English into it, start heaving a little bit more, and they get 3 or more reps. They're not completely cheating, but they get 3 or more reps, then they go to failure then. That's failure 2. It's different than failure 1. The other one could be they just cheat rep every single one of them, and then they go to failure there. Then, or another would be they do them really strict. And then when they get to failure there, they start heaving them up, doing cheat reps after that. Failure there. So what do you mean by failure is the first thing. So I just gave 4 really simple examples, and that's not including the hybrids of all that. Say you do 2 cheat reps and you do 1 strict rep, 1 cheat rep, 1 strict rep. I mean, there's a lot of different tempo changing things that you can do, form changing things, mechanical drop sets. There's all different things that you can do that kind of push a little bit further. What you need to be able to learn, in my opinion, again, is to fail with constant tempo and tension, to know what that is. And then failure is important for you to know what it is. That's all I'm trying to say here. So once you know what it is and whatever style that you're using, if it's heaving it, super strict, whatever it's going to be, that failure is going to be a little bit different with that weight, different reps, whatever that's there. Once you understand where that is, failure is not important. What I would say is you want to go 1 rep shy for hypertrophy of that failed rep. So you shouldn't, let's say you're 1 rep shy of that to me, that's failure, because you wouldn't have got the other one. So that's where most of that training should happen, 1 or 2 reps shy of failure. And that's also based upon the volume that's put in front of you. So if it's 20 sets, 30 sets, 6 sets, whatever it's going to be, if it's 30 sets, then not every work set's going to be to where I'm saying. So however you're going to plan that training day out, maybe some of the earlier ones are going to be 2-3 reps shy just to be able to build the volume up. Then some of the later ones you're going to start going to failure on. And then, over a period of that phase or that cycle, more and more of those sets end up being pushed to that higher fatigue threshold than what you started. So say, I'll keep it simple. Say you're using the exact same program, the exact same exercises, sets and reps, whatever it's going to be for that day. Then over a period of time, let's say it's 20 total sets, and you start out with 20% of them being work sets that are 1 rep shy of failure. Then over a period of whatever that phase is going to be, you work that from that 20% to 30% to 40%, 50%, 60%. So you work it up that way as far as the work sets, and then you would phase out and go into some other different type of training phase. That's just one way to kind of look at that from the hypertrophy point. If all you're doing is training 3 or 4 reps shy, of failure, I don't want to say you're not going to get any benefit from that, because it's definitely better than nothing. But your progress could probably be better on the other end of that. The other thing with this is, I just lost my train of thought. The other end of this hypertrophy type training here is, it may vary based upon exercises. Some exercises are a little bit harder to be able to keep that tension that I'm talking about, or constant rep speed, or how you fail. And so the follow-up question here would be, should they all be strict set? Should they all be full range of motion? Should none of them be loose? Should none of them be cheating? Should none of them be partial range? I don't think there's any really right or wrong, because it's going to come down to, their individual specificity. So there's going to be that. Do different things, because there's another factor associated with this, that if you think something's going to work better for you, it probably is going to work better for you. If you're not too sure, or if you kind of doubt what you're doing, it's probably not going to be as optimal for you. So if you like something, it's probably going to be more important. If you don't like something, a lot of parts of training suck, so you kind of won't like those things, but that's kind of a given. But there has to be a balance with the things that you do like. It kind of goes in there. Now, when we're talking about straight strength, you're talking a lower repetition threshold. So you're talking 1, 3s, 5s, and you're also talking greater demands on recovery because of the heavier weights and the 1s and 3s and 5s and stuff like that. With that, I would try to stay as far away from failure as you possibly can. I'm not saying that everything should be easy. It should be hard, but definitely a couple reps shy of failure for sure is going to come into that, just because of the recovery demands that are associated. But now once you get off of that main lift and you get down deep into the accessories, that other stuff can come back in with that. So I don't know if I'm really answering this to the way that y'all want it to be answered, because it's kind of it's like anything, right? It's one of those it depends type of answers. So I'm just giving you different ideas and thoughts on how to approach it, how to think of it outside of this absolute, because you're trying to work off something that's not even defined in the first place, which is failure, right? So that word failure to you, or to me, to somebody else, to this person, to that person, it could all be different. So before we can even start talking about how close you should be to failure, or if you could go past failure, we need to come to an agreed definition of what that means for who that person is and where they are in their training as well. It's going to be much harder for a beginner to really determine what that is than somebody that's been doing it for 10 years. Somebody that's been doing it for a decade and is really in touch, with how things are supposed to feel, how to contract and how to move with weight and with load, going back to that same barbell curl, I could take somebody who's very in touch with how to flex, how to move, how to contract, how to keep constant tension, how to create more tension, and give them, let's say they could normally barbell curl 120 pounds for 10 reps. I could give that same person, a dime per side, so say 65 pounds, and say, I want you to fail somewhere between 10 and 12 reps. So I don't care how you do it. All I want is to see that bar not be able to move by the time you get to 12. They could do that. Now they may have to use an extremely slow tempo. They may have to use, hold it at the top, flex really hard. They may have to use, a pausing, ISO holds, but they will be able to use that 65 pounds and get to that failure threshold. So in examples, that compared to a beginner that has no idea how to do any of these things, we're talking two entirely different people, in how to program, how to organize the training. And that needs to also be accounted for as well.